Hello and welcome to the Gooner back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, and specifically the Arsenal News Show. I hope you're doing good. I hope you are well today. It is the weekend. We can be happy. We can be relieved and relaxed that we can enjoy this weekend. The only thing that you have got to worry about is that Arsenal are not going to relax you at the beginning of the weekend for once, and instead we got a Sunday game, which of course we'll be covering across tomorrow. I am working the game for football.london as per, so the reaction show will be later on in the evening, probably around 8 o'clock-ish. So make sure you do tune in for all the good stuff around Arsenal's match against Watford. If you want to check out our preview, we'll be doing that live today, probably around 4 or 5 o'clock with some of the members. We'll be letting you know when that will be going live. You can follow us at the Gooner Talk TV to find out all the latest information about the channel, of course. Good morning to everybody. In the chat box, we've got Colin, we've got Jose, we've got Aaron, we've got GGTV for you, we've got Manu, we've got Daz, we've got Napa Fire, we've got Canoe 3A, we've got Matt, we've got Jez, we've got Stephen. We've got Daniel Robert joining us. We've got Vinny, as per. Plenty of our usual members in here as well. Olu, thank you so much for joining us. Mark, thank you as always for your support on the Arsenal way. Always spot you in the chat box as well. Thank you to everybody that's showing your support for the Arsenal way. Please make sure you do go subscribe over there. We're nearly at 4,000 subscribers, which when you consider what we started from nothing in September, to be nearly at 4,000 subscribers is mad. So thank you so much for the continued support. You can go watch Mikel Arteta's press conference on the channel as well as a lot more stuff. And there should be some interesting things coming for you guys over the international break as well, which should be a lot of fun. But without further ado, let's kick off with our first story, and that is that Konstantinos Mavropanos has been speaking about the possibility of him joining Stuttgart on a permanent deal. Now, effectively, this is already going to take place. Stuttgart do have a clause in the contract of Mavropanos, which will allow them to buy the player on an obligation should they stay in the Bundesliga this season. And if you consider the fact that Stuttgart are not really in a relegation battle, they currently sit 13th. I say that. I mean, they are 1 point away from that relegation playoff place, but Armenia and Greuther Fürth are both two teams that look destined to go down. You got the likes of, I mean, Frankfurt have really fallen off the wagon. You got Bochum down there, Augsburg too, Hertha Berlin, Cologne, all teams that could still go down, but Stuttgart in particular, I'd be very shocked to see them go down. A run of results, only won one of their last 5 games, has kind of dropped them down the table a bit since their early season push. But Mavropanos has been one of their most standout performances this season, easily one of their best players. I think he's actually up for the Bundesliga kind of in the team of the month this month as well for at least October. So very impressive performances from him, and he is set to leave the club in the summer for around 3 million-ish euros, which is not a lot. Now, Kieran Trippier was previously linked with a move to Arsenal back in the summer. Arsenal instead obviously opted for Takahiro Tomiyasu from Bologna, who has done exceptionally well. We did quite a few shows about Kieran Trippier and about how his experience would have been very beneficial for the club. And as Arsenal will be looking for backup right-backs with the future of their current crop simply not of the level required, and that's why they obviously went for Tomiyasu. Bellerin's future still very much away from Arsenal, it seems. What this means is that will Trippier be back on the list? Well, ironically, of all the teams that are interested, Newcastle look to be the big club that are interested in taking Kieran Trippier off the market. Now over the age of 30, I think we've probably missed the boat on this one now. It would have been good to sign him in the summer with this season and a couple of other seasons, but now his age profile probably leads him away too far for a 2-3 year contract. Arsenal in a very good place, and there are some options that Arsenal could use instead of the England international. But Newcastle, the team pushing for Kieran Trippier now. Matteo Guendouzi, again linked with Newcastle now as well. The Magpies are certainly making waves in the rumour mill. It is a very, very, of course, hectic period for Newcastle. They are so far without a win in the Premier League. That could change this weekend, although it is unlikely. But they will go up against plenty of teams that will show interest in Matteo Guendouzi in the coming windows. But they will need to act, it seems, this January with Eddie Howe set to take over the club very, very soon, if not already. and Matteo Guendouzi, after a really good opening start to the season, that second call up to the season, well, second this season, I believe, call up to the French senior national team. Massive boost for him. Could be on their list. He is set to leave Arsenal in the summer. There's pretty much no chance that Guendouzi stays, despite some words about from Mikel Arteta previously. The expectation is the clauses in his loan deal with Marseille mean that he will be leaving the club at the end of the season for around 9 million quid, which is just a really small amount of money. Crazy if you consider how good of a talent he could be. It's just those attitude issues that have let him down for Arsenal. And they will now get a very minimal fee for a player with a lot more talent than his market value suggests, which is a big, big shame. Now, our primary story of the day is, of course, around Dusan Vlahovic, the Serbian international Fiorentina striker, goal-scoring extraordinaire, 21-year-old. I still believe he is indeed still 21. I might be wrong on that, actually. I'm going to do a quick Google search because you don't want to give you that wrong information. 21, he is indeed. He turns 22 on the 28th of January. Now, yesterday, news broke, according to Dimarzio, that Arsenal would be willing to pay the 80 million euro kind of fee that Fiorentina or La Viola would be demanding for Dusan Vlahovic. He is a player that we know is exceptionally highly rated among strikers in Europe, a player that smashed scoring records for Fiorentina last season, that has been compared to the likes of Erling Haaland for his young or youthful kind of exuberance and the amount of goals he scores at such a young age. For a team like Fiorentina, helping them to try and push as far as they can up the Serie A table, they're no longer the force that they were. And you think about the times of like Batistuta, etc. But there's so many big teams in Italy now that push towards that top four places, with Juventus and even themselves struggling so far in the Serie A campaign. Fiorentina have needed Vlahovic to push them away from kind of mid-table austerity. And losing him will be a big, big loss for them. And they will need to reinvest that money that they get for Vlahovic very, very carefully. But the story on Arsenal is that Arsenal supposedly have agreed to pay the figure that Fiorentina want. However, the bad news is that Vlahovic reportedly is waiting for better and bigger offers from other clubs. He believes, it seems, that he can go to some of Europe's elite teams. I mean, above Arsenal, you're looking at obviously the bigger clubs in England that are competing on a higher level. Manchester City and Liverpool. Chelsea, you think, wouldn't be in for him because of the strikers they currently have. Liverpool, maybe because of their striker situation. Manchester City, also a team that you know would be in need of a striker in the coming windows. In Germany, would Bayern Munich be looking at him as a replacement for Robert Lewandowski in the long term? Possibly. Could Dortmund look at him as a replacement for Erling Haaland should he leave in the summer? Would Real Madrid or Barcelona be interested in him, or Atletico Madrid? Possibly so. There are a number of teams that he could be waiting for, even the likes of Juventus as well in Serie A, Inter Milan possibly too. Lots of teams have been interested in him. Arsenal are said to be the team to have made the first move on this, but he is not as keen as it seems. Now, in regards to the reaction to this news, I have seen people disregard it, knowing obviously now that he supposedly is not keen. All I would say is in regards to how much truth is there in these rumors. From my perspective, I know our Discord server kind of exploded yesterday talking about this, and I said I'd chase this up. From our perspective, I've heard nothing. Like I can't corroborate the claims that Dimarzio has put out there. It is so far just the outlet that is claiming that this is indeed the case. I'm not saying Dimarzio is wrong. Dimarzio is a very well-respected Italian media outlet, and he himself, Dimarzio, reporting this story. I mean, other than the fact that it was drawing quite a lot of attention, it doesn't seem like it's completely made up, and that the interest from Arsenal, I'm sure, is certainly there. The thing is that I understand why he would be reticent so far about joining Arsenal. If you consider the fact that we're out of Europe, we still need to get back into Europe. There's no guarantees next season. Arsenal still do have Aubameyang here, who is going to be here for at least another season. So minutes as a central striker are not 100% guaranteed next season for him either. He knows his quality and his talent and knows how many goals he's scoring will put him in the kind of sights of some of the biggest teams in the world. And it's smart for him from his position to not just go, okay, yeah, £68 million offer's coming. It's been accepted, whatever. I'm going to go there. He has all the control over his future, with him denying the possibility of a new contract in Florence for the summer. And that means that he can pretty much choose and pick where he would like to go from the clubs that are interested in him. So it makes sense that he will kind of be a little bit subdued. What I would say from this is that clearly, if this does turn out to be the case, Arsenal have the financial clout to really push for a quality striker this summer. That is certainly going to be an interesting chase in the upcoming windows. What's interesting about this story is that it's for January, that the January window is being targeted supposedly for Arsenal to go big on a striker. We know that we're going to be losing Aubameyang. We know that Lacazette's future is very much up in the air. We know that Nketiah's future is also very much up in the air. And the likes of Folarin Balogun needs a loan deal to really kind of cement his kind of reputation at the senior level and be getting regular minutes at a club at senior level. But I did not expect Arsenal to go big for a striker in January. If this story does turn out to be the case, that's interesting. And fair play. They are going to have to pay over the odds for the strikers in January that they want. If they can't get their number one target, will they then go off to another one? Will they go down to plan B or plan C or whatever? It's impossible to tell at this stage. But it's encouraging. I like this link. I like the story. I like the fact that we're seeing Arsenal linked with these big money moves for strikers in particular. It shows they're very much looking to try and get the best possible striking option in the summer or in January as they can, which is really, really positive. That is the end of the news. However, it doesn't mean it's the end of the stories about Vlahovic, because you guys can ask your questions now in the chat box. If you have something that you would like to ask, you would like to throw into the chat box, a thought, a theory, a question or query, please do throw them in and I'll try and go through as many of them as feasibly possible. But let's get some of your reaction to the stories about Vlahovic and what you guys are saying. Stephen says, the perfect forward, quick, holds the ball and is deadly as well. Matt says, these Vlahovic rumours sound like an agent talk. The player isn't signing a new deal with Fiorentina, so his agent is using Arsenal to drum up interest. Not the first time that we've ever seen that happen and Arsenal be used in this sense. So there you go. I can't disagree with you there, Matt, whatsoever. Half African says, pity if true, he'd fit into our youth model so well. Our team is 5 years now and is going to be elite. You do look at the young players that we've got and how they may develop into some really top-class players in the future. Amin says, I feel that Locatelli kind of story all over again. We agree with the club and the player turns us down. We did, of course, agree a fee, supposedly, with Sassuolo in the summer for Locatelli, and he didn't turn into anything. Harvey says, if it's true, he doesn't want Arsenal, I would look elsewhere. Again, this is a really strange one for me. If a player at first turns down Arsenal, I'm not turning around and saying I don't want them. I'm not so proud about my club that I turn around and say that every player should want to come here over any other club. At the end of the day, we can't be so arrogant about where we are as a team. And we need to convince players that the project here is going to be beneficial for them and that they need to get on board and they're going to be in here for the right reasons. Funnily enough, not everyone is an Arsenal fan, and we can't expect everybody to just immediately be desperate to come to the club, especially a player like Vlahovic has seen interest from the biggest clubs from around Europe. It's not going to come very, very easily for him to want to come to Arsenal over the likes of Juventus, Real Madrid, etc. And so we've got to convince him that this project is right. I am glad that I don't have negotiators at the club that are on the lines of, if they're considering kind of looking at Arsenal or they're looking at other options, they're going to go, no, it's either you pick Arsenal or no one. Because let's be real, we would really find it tough to sign the top players in the world if that was the case. So we need to grind players down and we need to be able to sell them a project that is going to be attractive enough for them to want to join us. Next gen Arsenal, yes, he would improve us aerially. He is much, much more adept in the air than the likes of Aubameyang and Lacazette is so far, and he would certainly add to our aerial threat. So there is that as well. Vinny says, is spending 80 million on one player a bad move? Look at the pressure it puts on Pepe. If we sign Pepe for 30 million, he would be under a lot less pressure. But would he be any better? It's impossible to know, ultimately. Has that price tag really affected Pepe? I'm not sure that it has. I don't think the price tag has actually affected Pepe. I think the only thing that the price tag has done is affected how we as fans perceive the player. I think Pepe's played pretty much how he's always done at Arsenal. He's been pretty consistent in his performances, not necessarily great, not necessarily awful, just fairly average and decent at times. Like, I don't think the price tag is going to be an issue. No matter what, Vlahovic is going to move for a massive fee. The likes of Haaland is going to move for a massive fee. All of these players in these kind of brackets are going to move for huge figures. It's just part and parcel of what football is these days. Has the £50 million figure affected Ben White? No, he was my player of the month for October. Has the biggest figures in the world affected the likes of Thomas Partey? No, I don't think it has. So I don't think that it's always going to point towards a huge fee affecting the player. It's just part and parcel of football these days. I'm happy to see that Arsenal clearly are willing to invest heavily in this striking position for the future. That's something that I'm very much encouraged by. Paul says, Ramsdale and Tomiyasu were all in on the Arsenal train, and that's part of the reason we love them so much. Shouldn't we expect this from all of our buyers? No, Paul, we shouldn't expect this from all of our buyers, because at the end of the day, Tomiyasu had ourselves and Spurs interested in him. Obviously, from his words, we've seen how much he wanted to join Arsenal over Spurs. But the difference between us, or rather the difference between Tomiyasu and Vlahovic, is that Vlahovic has got the likes of Juventus, Atletico Madrid, Manchester City, Liverpool have all been linked with this guy. Why wouldn't he, in that situation, as not an Arsenal fan, wait around to see what kind of offers would come in for him as well? That's what I would say. So no, it's not always expectant. But if they do sign, the expectation is that they want to go absolutely and give their 110% for Arsenal Football Club. Ramsdale, again, there wasn't any other clubs that we were looking at Ramsdale at the moment we signed him. It's a very, very different situation, but they have proven to be very good signings. Should we also sign a striker that's a little bit left field? I think we may need to provide some cover for whoever we sign as our marquee striker, because Aubameyang won't be around forever, and the likes of Folarin Balogun are still very, very young. So I would be looking at the likes of Paul Onuachu from Genk, for instance, the Nigerian forward, to bring in as possible support to Vlahovic to give us another option in the team as well. So I think there's definitely all of the possibility in the world that we sign a very marquee forward in the next kind of 6 to 8 months. We'll wait and see, but it's going to be an intriguing time for strikers. Stephen says, question, still need 2 centre midfielders in January as well. I don't think we need 2 in January, Stephen. I think we need at least 1. 2 is a little bit much. It does depend on who leaves. We have Lokonga, Partey, Xhaka. We then sign one that's 4. You've still got Mohamed El Neni here. You've still got Ainsley Maitland-Niles here. You have got players. You've got players coming through the ranks as well, like Salah and Patino, that can also play in midfield. Akinola too. You've got a lot of depth there. I think you need 1 at least in January. The next one can come in the summer in the form of maybe a Zakaria that's out of contract at the end of the season. It all depends on who leaves, who stays. But right now, based on what's available to us, I think 1 would be fine in that central midfield position in January. Olu says, hey, Tom, do you have any concerns considering his age and he has only had 1 good season at the top level? Yes, I do. And I talked a bit about this on the Canton and Simu show over on Harry's Chronicles of a Gooner channel. That's the show where me and Harry do one every week. We alternate it. This week we're on his channel. Last week we're on my channel. Next week we'll be on my channel again. So make sure that you are subscribed to both the Gooner Talk and the Chronicles of a Gooner to get that show. But yes, there's always going to be concerns. And that's why I would lean towards Dominic Calvert-Lewin over someone necessarily from Europe in the same kind of bracket of quality, because they've got that Premier League experience. They're already transitioned. They're an England international, which feeds into kind of the homegrown chemistry that we're building up between the side right now. I would move for someone like that. But the difference is that Vlahovic has the opportunity to be one of the best strikers in the world. Can you pass up the opportunity if it arises to sign someone of that quality? I'm not sure that you can. So it's a really difficult balancing act that you need to kind of find the answer to, which is not going to be easy. But what you have to say about Edu and Arteta in the recruitment field is, of the signings that they've made a lot more W's than they have L's. If you think about it, only Willian and Alex Runarsson you look at as players that have really kind of fallen down on. All of the others, Gabriel, Partey, Odegaard, Matt Ryan, Tomiyasu, Ben White, Ramsdale, Nuno Tavares, Sambi Lokonga, have all looked really good so far. And I'm very happy with the signings that we have made under those 2. So things have changed a lot with the way that we've signed players. So I have a lot more faith in our recruitment policies and how we're bringing in players. I think based upon the reaction to our summer, in the summer, that people need to be a little bit more, or rather less, judgmental about the players that we're maybe linked with, and have a little bit more faith in what the guys behind the scenes are doing right now, because I think it's proving to be very beneficial for us. Jonathan says, if according to Aston Villa, Emile Smith-Rowe's worth is around £25 million, perhaps we should offer £8 million for McGinn in January. Would be good for depth. He's only signed a new deal recently. I know that your comment is tongue-in-cheek, but he has only signed a new deal very recently. I still think they would ask for a ridiculous figure. Dan, no. Actually, sorry, I didn't read your comment properly. Probably. I mean, I'm not moving away from Salah. I can't afford to move away from Salah. He's just too good at the moment. So no, he is still my captain, and I'm very much keeping him as captain. GG says, I think this move shows ambition from the club if true. Absolutely. I think it's great to see Arsenal linked with big money moves for strikers. It shows they're not taking this situation lightly, and that's a really positive thing moving forward. IGK says Arteta has signed 0 attacking players. He has focused on defense, which makes sense, but for top 4 next season, Arteta must be given a new striker. Pure CDM as well. I don't disagree. Obviously, we've signed Martin Odegaard, who's a player that plays in that forward line, but he's also been really good at bringing through Smith-Rowe, bringing through Bukayo Saka. Those two have definitely improved under Arteta's coaching and tutelage. And I mean, he's pretty much made a whole new position for Smith-Rowe and tailor-made it for him and really improved Smith-Rowe in that role on the left-hand side. So that's really positive. We know that he did some really good work, the likes of Leroy Sané and Sterling when he was at Man City. He seems to be having a positive impact on Smith-Rowe. I tell you what, that's one of the biggest tells for someone that holds an agenda against Arteta is when you turn around and say about how Saka and Smith-Rowe have improved under him and they say, oh, they're young, they'd always improve. If that was the case, you wouldn't see any 20, 21-year-olds being very stagnant with their careers. I'm sorry, it still takes good coaching to improve these players, and to see them get to where they are now is a lot in part due to the coaching they've received under Mikel Arteta. It would take someone with a very big agenda to turn around and say that he's had no bearing at all on the way things have gone. Magic says, should we go for Ivan Toney or Isak instead? Ivan Toney, I think, has struggled, actually, adjusting to the Premier League as I thought he might do. I still am going to wait until the end of the season for a pass full judgment on him, but I'm not keen right now. Isak, again, I'm not 100% keen on Alexander Isak. I think he'd be more of a risk than Vlahovic, personally. I think he's someone that is very much attributed to playing around this Real Sociedad model. I know he scores a few goals for Sweden as well, but I'm not 100% convinced by Isak, whereas I'm more convinced by someone like Vlahovic. It's just something about Isak that just doesn't quite convince me. And this is coming from someone that loves to follow players in La Liga and see them succeed. There's just something about him that I'm not 100% convinced by. And I think there was a big kind of boost of watching him for Sweden in the Euros. And then people haven't really bothered to watch him for Real Sociedad this season and just still got that same opinion from the Euros. So there's always that as well. Tommy said, if I could go back to the time when Arsenal was at the top, that would be the best for me. So I don't want to move. And hopefully he helps us to get there. So I can't disagree with your comment. Tony says, morning, Tom. If it's tough for us to make top signings, how hard will it be for Newcastle? Massively difficult. They've got to survive a relegation battle. They're going to take ages to build to where they want to be. Maybe they even go down. We'll have to wait and see. Olu says, I'm against the Onuachu move. No other clubs in the Big Six makes these types of signings in their striker position. They have a top-class starter and a young backup or top quality. I'm not sure that's always the case. I mean, you look at Man City, they brought in the likes of Alvaro Negredo to go alongside Sergio Aguero. So I don't think necessarily that's always true. Manchester United brought in Dimitar Berbatov to play with the likes of Wayne Rooney. So I don't think that's always the case, Olu. I think big sides do go out and add experienced figures, sometimes add big backup players to their team. It's not always everybody, but I don't think you would say that they never do that. I think some teams do go out and sign players just to add kind of that extra dimension to their side. I mean, you look at Inter Milan, they still got Lautaro Martinez. They sold Romelu Lukaku. They brought in Edin Dzeko as their backup striker, as their additional striker to support Martinez. And they're linked with Alexandre Lacazette too. So I don't think it's always going to be that way, but we'll see what happens. Ajit says, Tom, us signing midfield is more likely than signing a striker in January. It's more of a pressing need. Just because it's more of a pressing need, Ajit, doesn't mean it necessarily will happen. We said this about midfield in the summer, and we signed an attacking midfielder in Ramsdale at the end of the summer. So there's no way that it's guaranteed we'll go for a midfielder. It seems to be, if anything, that the striker situation is more clued in. Mohammed says, what do you think about Darwin Nunez at Benfica? I think he's being linked with clubs like Brighton for a reason. I'm not sure he's at the level yet to see links with the likes of Arsenal and it to be kind of, that he's going to be at that level. I think he needs to take that next step before going to a club like Arsenal personally. Den says, morning Tom, hope all is well, mate. I've always liked the look of Enesri, plays out wide as well as striker too, which would be useful given Pepe's slippery slope. I think that Enesri is definitely a very, very good option for Arsenal to look at. He's currently faced a fair few injury issues this season, which has kept him out annoyingly because he was doing really well at the start of the campaign as he was building on from his stellar season last year. But he's certainly someone that I would take seriously as an option. Manu says, could Arteta mould Onuachu into a Lacazette role? He plays more like a Aubameyang, real poacher who gets by because of his physical presence. I like when we play with a Laka type. Do you agree? I think that we need someone that can play off the striker and has that link. Now, it doesn't have to be a Laka style player. It could be, natural number 10. It could be a Martin Odegaard style player. I don't think you need to be married to a certain style of player for a system to work. I think you need to create a team that uses and gets the best out of the players that we have. So if we sign someone like Onuachu, you play him in the best position it is. You don't necessarily try to mould him into a second striker. I don't think that would suit a system. If we signed Onuachu, I think we would look at him as more of a backup to the marquee style forward that we would be looking to bring in. So there you go. Magic says, with Xhaka out for long, wouldn't it make sense to promote the academy rather than spend in January? Games coming in thick and fast soon, plus Partey will be off to the African Cup of Nations. Not necessarily, because Arsenal need to sign in central midfield. If we sign someone in January, it just accelerates that process forwards from the summer. Arsenal are interested in signing a central midfielder. We know this. We don't know who their primary target is right now, but they want a central midfielder. Even with Xhaka's injury, even before Xhaka's injury, they wanted a central midfielder. So it may happen in January. It may not. Nick says, do you think Saka could ever be transformed into a striker, or is he better in the build-up? I don't think so. His finishing ability is the biggest weakness of his game, in my view. It's the area that he needs to develop the most. His creativity is great. His dribbling is great. His take-ons are great. His passing is great. It's just his finishing ability. That's the big area of his game that he needs to improve in. So, no, I don't think I would put him at striker personally. I think he's very much a winger. Asmarom says, Tom, last year, did Edu and Arteta make a wrong decision in bringing in Odegaard instead of Dominic Szoboszlai? They have been tracking him for a long period of time. Very physical, athletic, and technical. Look, everyone knows my liking of Dominic Szoboszlai. He is a brilliant, brilliant talent. And I loved how he gave it to Neymar the other day and just put his penalty away very calmly against PSG. Did we make a mistake? I would always say yes, because I like him. But Odegaard is a very talented young player. People forget how young he is because he's been around for a very long time, because he's been on the scene since he was 16. He's 22. He's showing a lot of promise. Even when he came off the bench against Leicester, I thought he did some really good things. The way he played a couple of key passes, which is not regularity for number 10s inside. You still only get one, usually like at most in games. So seeing that key pass, the couple of key passes from Odegaard to Saka was really encouraging. And eventually Lacazette is going to take over the role of Aubameyang in January, and Odegaard is likely to come into that position. We may even see Odegaard against Liverpool. It might make more sense to use him in the 4-2-3-1 than the 4-4-2-ish formation that we've been using. So did we make a mistake? Look, I can't. It's impossible to know, because we don't know what would have happened if Szoboszlai would have been at Arsenal. So I like Odegaard a lot. I love Szoboszlai, but I can't say whether or not it was a mistake, because we just don't know. Adam says, hey, Tom, sorry if you already answered this, but I just came in. Would you take Vlahovic over Enesri? Yes, I would. Mohammed says, how much do you think Osimhen would cost, and would you like him at Arsenal? I think he would cost upwards of £80 million. And would I like him at Arsenal? Yes, but only if we spent that money and still knew that we were getting our other targets, is what I would say. Ajit says, Clive from Arsenal Vision said, I mean, he might be watching, so careful, Ajit. Clive from Arsenal Vision said Pepe can be an option as a second striker. He is more dangerous through the middle. I agree. I think that you put Pepe close to the striker, he's going to be a lot more dangerous. His best part of his game, in my opinion, is his finishing, is his shooting. People might say, no, it's his dribbling, but I'm sorry, he really struggles to take on more than one player on the wide position. I'd play him close to the striker. I'd play him in this Lacazette role. I think it would suit him really well. I just don't think that it's going to happen under Arteta. And I think it's probably best if Arsenal look to move him on as soon as possible. Let's scroll up. Have I missed anyone's questions? Jake says, do you think with Xhaka out and Partey and Elneny going off to the AFCON that they'll look to promote Patino or maybe even give Wilshere a play-as-you-play contract? Wilshere, absolutely not. There's no indication they'll be giving him a contract. There's no indication that he's impressing in training to kind of give him a contract. So I don't expect that to happen. What I would say is that in regards to the youth players, Patino is currently injured. Salah's the one that's really impressing right now. Will they promote? Arteta's been pretty reluctant to do so. He's only seen Salah put on the bench once as one kind of youth presence in any side so far this season. Yes, we haven't had European football, which is a big knock to the possibility of seeing more kids. But what I would say is that I don't think Patino's going to be promoted just yet. I think that may happen next season. But who knows? Anything can happen. Things can change. What's my opinion on the revival of Kolasinac? That there isn't one. Harun says, have you looked at Nkunku as a second striker? He's been superb this season and last season in that position. I like Nkunku. I think he's a versatile player that can play in multiple positions. Do I think that it'd be worth bringing him in? Absolutely, if we can get him in. I think he's a really, really solid player. I hope that answers your question. Let's scroll up a little bit higher and see if I missed anyone's questions from earlier on. Apologies if I did so. Dan, no, I've not yet checked out his 30-minute interview with Amy Lawrence. It's next on my list of things to do after I get off today's show, which is actually, as I just noticed, the time going over 30 minutes is going to be right now. Thank you so much for tuning in, people. Really appreciate your time. If you haven't already checked out the Canton and Simeon show from yesterday on Harry Simu's Chronicles of the Gooner channel, please make sure that you do. I'll be back a little bit later on this afternoon for the preview of the Watford game, so make sure you tune in for that as well. And then I'll be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for your next episode of the Arsenal News Show, which will soon, as of December, be turning into the Arsenal Transfer News Show once again as we look ahead to the January window. I will see you on the next one. Have a fantastic day. And as always, up the Arsenal.